Go live on Instagram here. And then we should be relatively straightened out. Well, if I could go live on Instagram. If you're just joining us from Substack or one of the other socials, thank you for being here. If you can bear with me for another, I don't know, 45 seconds. I just want to bring the live feeds up. Let's see. Let me bring up the Substack feed. Okay, and that sometimes takes a few moments to populate. We've got the Instagram feed, we've got YouTube, Substack. I'm going to check back with you in about 3 minutes because it takes a little while for that feed, for some reason, to populate up in my browser. So I don't know why, but Instagram is here. I hope you guys are doing well. Lenscape One, how are you? Thank you for joining us. Anyway, guys, I'm a little bit late today. My apologies for that. It was a take your parents to the doctor day again. Just, I am the, of the plethora of people that Kamala was speaking to during the when she was running for office, when she was running to be president, which God, why did we not elect her? She was speaking to people like me, people in the sandwich generation, people who have young kids and elderly parents. That's me. And, sometimes it's hard to get everything straightened out, but I had some follow-up appointments with the elders today. Thank God they're still alive, so I'll take it. And there we go. The live feed is up in Substack. Let me just pop this up. We're going to get rid of the sound, and it looks like we're good in Substack too. So that's why I'm coming into the live, a little bit late today. All right, guys. I have next to me, or underneath me, depending on if you're watching this feed vertically or horizontally, Al Jazeera's coverage right now of the war. It doesn't matter. Here's NBC News's coverage, of the war. My preference in general is Al Jazeera because they tend to do a better job with breaking news, moment-to-moment news about what's happening. But I think I'm just going to talk today because I think this is more here for window dressing than referring to any specific story. Although maybe we'll see. We'll see if we I get to some news, some real news coverage. What I try to do generally in my lives, I haven't been all that successful lately, but my goal frequently is to talk a bit, share my opinion, my thoughts about the news of the moment, and then I like to back that up with actual news reporting so I can fact check myself in real time. If I'm not afraid or ashamed to be wrong. I think it's okay to be wrong, and it's that's what differentiates us from folks within the MAGA community, is that they can't be wrong, they can't admit they're wrong. Hey, Irish Aggie. Hey, Lacey. How are you guys? So let's just take a moment and try to wrap our brains around where we are right now. Because where we are right now is unthinkably catastrophic. It's unthinkably catastrophic. Let me repeat it again. It's unthinkably inhumane, utterly disgraceful, and remarkably catastrophic. At the same time, it is so absolutely ridiculous. It is, if there weren't tragedy and genocidal behavior going on at this moment, and you looked at the position the United States finds itself in at this moment, right? And only that, not, the horrors that are happening. You would have to ask yourself, like, how ridiculous. I know I come out here and I day in and day out and I talk about the absurdity of the moment we're in, the absurdity, the lunacy of Donald Trump being president ever, and especially in wartime. But, we are at, I mean, in my wildest, I can fully imagine that what we're dealing with. but I can't imagine it at the same time. It's the only way I can really express my thoughts about the situation. You have a situation where the I can't even call him the village idiot anymore because he's less than that, right? Let's put the murder aside that's going on in Beirut and in southern Lebanon for a sec. Let's put that aside just for a couple of moments, and let's talk about the insanity. You have a desperate person in Donald Trump who does not have any idea what the fuck he's doing on his best day. On his best day, he doesn't know, north, south, east, or west. I sometimes question whether he knows what room he's sitting in the White House. That's on his best day. Now you have him spiraling emotionally in the midst of a war that he started, an illegal war that he started, and he desperately needs to get out of it because the little bit that's left of him mentally that's there is aware of how much political turmoil and trouble he's in because of this war. So either it was prearranged with the Pakistanis, or the Pakistanis saw an opportunity and they stepped up at the last minute before the idiots Tuesday deadline, when he was going to completely destroy Iranian civilization. He was going to, in essence, kill everybody, right? Remember that comment from Tuesday morning? Or was it Monday night or Tuesday morning? I don't remember. And obviously he wasn't going to do that because not that he could care. I think he would enjoy that because I think he's a serial killer now and he's experiencing sociopathic bloodlust. But he gets this opportunity to bail on this war. And again, I can't, the conspiracy theorist weirdo in me makes me wonder if the Pakistanis, if it was all sort of set up between the White House and the Pakistanis, and then the White House just fucked it up. Like, did the Pakistanis just step up at the last minute and come up with this potential solution, this ceasefire that in its simplest form was the Iranians would open up the Strait of Hormuz and the idiot would stop bombing, right? That was the most basic. That's what we heard as the most basic form of the ceasefire. That was the basic agreement that the Pakistanis came up with. And I would almost bet that the Trump administration reached out quietly to the Pakistanis and asked about this, begged them for help in their own way. And the Pakistanis threw this stupid idea out. And then the Iranians, out-strategizing the Trump administration, which is no great feat. It's not that difficult to do. The Iranians then come in and they say, no, okay, we'll have a ceasefire, but you have a 10-point plan. And and if you agree to that 10-point plan, you can stop the war. We'll be out. We'll bail. We're ready to be done with this. If you don't agree to our 10-point plan, you can go screw yourself. We know Donald Trump is a maniac. We don't trust him anyway. And the whole world basically thinks you guys are the bad guys. Yeah, much of the world still sees us as the bad guys because we've done some pretty shitty and awful things. But really, as crazy as we ever were, we were never Donald Trump. You may accuse us of state sponsor of terrorism, and we get it. But guess what? Donald Trump is actually worse in some ways than a global terrorist, right? He is, and he's dumber and crazier than any organized state-sponsored global terrorist. And the way he's executed this war with drunken Pete Hegseth, the semi-functioning alcoholic in the Department of Defense, the world sees that we are the sane ones. We're the rational people in this crazy fucking fight, and we're going to use that leverage to get what we want, because we didn't ask for this war in the first place. So they come back with this 10-point plan, and the 10-point plan includes charging $2 million per ship that comes through the Strait of Hormuz, and splitting that with Oman. It includes the Iranian military controlling the Strait of Hormuz. No partnership with the U.S. The Iranian military controlling the Strait of Hormuz. It included U.S. getting all of their troops out of all of the bases in the Middle East across the board. It includes a cessation of hostilities, a ceasefire with Israel and with the U.S. On Iran, but also Lebanon. It included, for now, for the 2 weeks, the Iranians would get to keep their enriched uranium. And basically, it was I don't that was 5 of the 10 points, but basically the 10 points, right, were just everything the Iranians wanted, and Donald Trump immediately agreed to it. Remember that there was like reporting coming out. I remember sitting through, watching this, talking about it on our lives, posting about it. There was a lot of reporting percolating after the Pakistanis released their, the statement that this is our idea. This is the ceasefire we wanted. And it took about 2 hours or so. The Iranians very patiently waited longer, but the Village Idiot could only hold out for 2 hours. And then the Village Idiot puts up a post, right, that he now basically disavows, in essence, puts up a post that basically says, fantastic. It's a very workable plan that is a basis for negotiations. We're going to agree. We're going to do it. It's fantastic. We've been having, and this is after he lied for a week and a half that there would have been ongoing negotiations, of which there were not, right? So the idiot agrees to everything the Iranians demand, right? And then the Iranians still wait. You didn't hear from the Iranians for another hour. I remember like it was 5 minutes ago because it was so poignant. The Iranians then put out a statement on Twitter, on X, where they basically said, we're going to review the plan and we're going to see. We'll let you know within an hour. And this is like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and the idiot's deadline is 8 o'clock. So they're intentionally stringing that moron along, right? Because he's probably sitting in the White House, shitting in his pants, waiting to hear that the Iranians said yes. Because if the Iranians had said no, right, he'd either have to go in and annihilate the civilization, as he promised, or he'd have to taco out somehow. He'd have to get out of it somehow. And, we won. They said, I know what they're saying publicly, but privately, we won. They agreed to everything. We're going to get out now. I'm going to talk about Cuba. Cuba, Marco, can you talk about Cuba? We're sending the troops over to Cuba. They're going to go in there and they're going to take Cuba. I'm going to have Cuba. I really want Cuba. Now I have Iran. There's been regime change, right? So he needed them to say yes, but they waited. And they waited. And they waited. And then at the 11th hour, they were like, yeah, okay. And a lot of us, I put a post out on Instagram. I was like a little surprised because I was like, why the fuck would the Iranians agree to that? I mean, because at that point, we knew that the Village Idiot had mentioned the 10-point plan. We knew that he had agreed to the 10-point plan in terms of accepting that plan at the moment, as the reason for the ceasefire and using it as a basis for negotiation. Meanwhile, his 15-point plan just gone. There was no discussion. There was none. Don't let Fox News or any of the idiots in the White House bullshit you, because we were all here and we see with our eyes and we hear with our ears. And if you're not from the MAGA community, you can trust your eyes and your ears. I've been on top of it. I have, tons of friends who are influencers who have been on top of it. You have reporters, many of you have been on top of it as well. I mean, we know what we saw, right? It is what it was. He agreed to that plan as it was written. But at that point, at that moment, what we knew was that the Iranians had agreed to the ceasefire, sort of based on their 10-point plan that Donald Trump had agreed to, and based on what the Pakistanis had told us, which was opening the Strait of Hormuz to stop the bombing. I was surprised because I thought, all right, I didn't know what was in the 10-point plan because that wasn't publicized yet, right? And I was like, it seems like the Iranians aren't getting much out of that. They're giving up all their leverage in the Strait of Hormuz, but fine, at least the killing will stop. Thank goodness for that. But then the reporting started to come out. And I don't remember which news outlet got the first version of the 10-point. I think the Iranians put the 10-point plan up on Twitter. I think that's what happened, right? And we read through the plan. And now we knew what was in it. And it started to make sense why the Iranians were like, oh, yeah, hell yeah. The idiot agreed to this. We're going to go along with this. Sure. I mean, we get everything we want. We will be in a better position now than we were in before the war, in terms of, we will be able to, we already, before this agreement, right, before this sort of 10-point plan agreement, remember, guys, the Iranians were already given permission to sell oil while we were at war with them. They've been sanctioned for what? How many years? Right? How many years have we had sanctions on the Iranians? They've already been fucking sanctioned to fund their war effort with oil, unsanctioned with the Russians, right? So the plan. So now, in addition to that, they were going to be able to charge $2 million a ship. That's at its busiest moment, right? We've seen reporting that the Straits of Hormuz takes in 100 ships a day at least. That's $200 million a day. 100 million for the Iranians, 100 million for the folks in Oman. I mean, that's a shitload of money, right? Right, and you can buy a lot of, Shahed missile or Shahed drones with that you can build, right? So anyway, reporting's coming out. We're all making fun of Trump being a taco, right? Even Fox News. Fox News is trying to spin this as some sort of military brilliance, but even there, it's like, even they're sort of like fucking it up, right? It's not a manageable argument. It's so public pressure is starting to weigh on the idiot that he got rolled again, right? And the Israelis, the Israeli government is, I want to make sure I am clear to, I have a lot of dear friends on Facebook who aren't going to want to hear this. But I am sorry. I have to repeat what I see with my eyes and I hear with my ears. I want to be clear, abundantly clear about my position. I am a proud American Jew. I have a love for Israel. It's always been the country that I have believed that in the worst of circumstances I could go to. We were always taught that growing up in religious school as a young kid. I have worked as a full-time person for years in the Jewish community. I have been, although I'm not as active now as I used to be, if anybody wants to challenge that, I'm happy to have that debate with them. But what the Israelis are doing is not Jewish. It is disgusting. It is offensive. It is despicable. It is despicable what happened in Gaza, 70,000 people dead. There is no excuse for it. And as a Jew, I don't accept that because that's not what we do. I'm sorry. And if you're somebody who is from my community and that's hard for you to hear coming from my mouth, I hate that that's the case, but I cannot be on the wrong side of history. I won't be. I won't be on the wrong side of history. I can't, and I wish it wasn't like this. And what subsequently happened is happening right now. The astonishing, in the worst kind of way, bombing of civilians in Beirut and southern Lebanon. Over 300 people killed. Not all Hezbollah. No. No. That's not okay. And it's okay. Israel is a theocracy, but it's a democratic one to a certain extent. It's perfectly okay. I'm doing it here in the United States to call out your government. It doesn't mean that every Israeli is responsible for this sick fucking behavior of Benjamin Netanyahu. They are not. There are plenty of Israelis that are opposed to this war. There are plenty of Israelis who support this war, but cannot support these actions. And when you live in a democracy of any kind, if you want to hold on to that democracy, as we're learning here in the United States right now, you need to speak up. When your government is committing war crimes, when your government is acting in a way that is contrary to your values, not just as a Jewish person, but as a human being. When your government defiles the baseline decency of humanity, I believe it's a responsibility to speak out. You can't do that everywhere. You can't do that if you live in Russia. You borderline can't do that right now. We'll see what happens in the subsequent elections, but you can't, you can't do that in Viktor Orban's Hungary, right? You can't do that in Iran. You can't do it in Saudi Arabia. You can do it in the US, though. You can do it in Israel. You can do it in Canada. You can do it in Mexico. You can do it in the European Union and in the countries there. You can do it in Great Britain. And our democracies in every one of those countries, if you don't see here in the United States, if you don't see how fragile democracy is, if you're not aware of how close we are, how we in the United States right now are on the razor's edge, and the only thing that's saving us from losing our democracy right now is that Donald Trump is such a profound idiot that if he was Viktor Orban, if he had the intellectual capacity of Vladimir Putin, or even if he just had, the system is so fragile, I've learned now, even if Donald Trump just was baseline functioning intellectually, we'd be in far, 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 far deeper trouble than we are right now. So if my words offend you, I hate that that's the case, that we've come to that moment, that that's the case. If my position is offensive to you, I hate that that's the case. But I would suggest you look down deep at your own humanity, and you look down deep at what your government or the government you support is engaged in, and you ask yourself, if you were the president, if you were the prime minister of Israel, would you have murdered all of those people? Is there a better way? Yeah, Hezbollah has been, a murderous thorn in the side of Israel for decades, no doubt. But this, murdering everyone, murdering everybody to kill anybody is not Jewish. It's not humane, and it's unacceptable. I just needed to kind of get that off my chest. So, and I see there's a lot of comments in the chat too, guys, and I promise I will get to them. But back to the absurdity, I sort of jumped over to the catastrophe, but back to the absurdity here in the U.S. So you had all of this tremendous pressure building on the village idiot. And the expectation from any of us that live here in the United States that watch him day in and day out was he was going to react like an idiot. He was going to react in the dumbest, stupidest, most childish, asinine way you could possibly imagine, right? He was going to react in a way that would be like a 3-year-old, a very spoiled 6-year-old, a very spoiled 6-year-old that's never been held accountable for anything in their lives, that never evolved emotionally beyond 6 years old, but is now almost 80 years old and has a toy in his hand, a new toy that he has access to the strongest military the world has ever known. And how does that idiot react to it? Exactly as we would expect, but we're still stunned that it happened. You know what? That wasn't the 10-point plan. There's actually a second 10-point plan. That's right. The second 10-point plan. I didn't agree to the first 10-point plan. No, I didn't. I promise. I didn't. No. No, I didn't do it. I didn't say. Of course you did, Donald. Now you're going to make up. You're that crazy and that emotionally immature that now you're... I mean, I can't say it without like finding it humorous. You're that emotionally immature and transparently. I mean, I remember catching my son when he was 5, 6, and 7 with these kind of lies, and teaching him that that's not how you. He's not that my kid is a prolific liar by any stretch of the imagination, but he'd be so much better at it now, right? You know what I mean? Because he evolved beyond, lying like you would when you're 4, right? But this is what we've got. And these buffoons, Carolyn Levitt, Pete Hegseth, we can't speak enough about the absolute absurdity of the buffoons around him. Marco Rubio, who parrot this utter nonsense. I mean, if Pam Bondi, if she has had any sense and come to her and has come to her senses in any capacity, I am doubtful that's the case since she's been fired. She would take a deep breath and be like, thank God I am away from this lunacy, these imbeciles. So now the idiot is expecting, and the idiots around him are expecting everyone to believe, or anyone to believe, that, oh, it was a different 10-point plan. There was the original 10-point plan that we all saw you agree to. We all saw you agree to that, for 2 weeks, right? And to use that as a springboard for negotiations. We all saw it. We all saw you ignore, not speak about your 15-point plan. We saw it. We heard it. We were all there. And now, because you're so fucked up in this situation, now you're telling us there's a second 10-point plan. There was another one. That's right. It was the second. I didn't do the first one. I did the second one. The second, and the Iranians agreed. No. The Iranians agreed to the second plan. I mean, isn't that what we've got? Isn't it like a toddler? The Iranians agreed to the second plan. I mean, isn't that what we have right now? And it's war. And we have that. And this is what they're going with now. And then you take, the war criminal of war criminals at the moment, second only to Vladimir Putin, Benjamin Netanyahu, who is but again, he's not a dumb person like Donald Trump. He's not an emotionally immature person like Donald Trump, right? And he's like, fuck this. I'm going to use this. I'm going to ratchet it up now. And I know if I ratchet it up, I block that idiot Trump into a corner. And what's he going to do? And I don't think Netanyahu is going to stop. I don't think we've seen the end. God willing, we have, but I don't think we've seen the end of the bombardment by any stretch of the imagination of Lebanon and of the murder of civilians, because I think he's going to keep hitting them until the Iranians respond, because that's what he needs and that's what he wants. And that's what that sociopath, I don't know what I can't think of the guy's name. I don't know if he's their minister of defense or whatever it is, their extreme religious extremist, who is, in that position, who's toasting the death penalty and, just he seems to be, getting off on this in some sick capacity. But there's got to be a strategic intent here, and that's strategic. And I don't blame Netanyahu for the strategic intent. I think it's sick in the sense that I've already called them out for the murder and the attempt at genocide a second time around. I did that. If you're just joining us, I did a hard call out on that in the beginning of this live. But the strategy to manipulate the village idiot Donald Trump to get him to do what you want, I mean, why wouldn't Netanyahu do it? Everybody else is doing it. The Iranians are doing it. Netanyahu is going to do it. Putin has been doing it forever now. President Xi has been doing it. The Prime Minister Carney of Canada finally figured out how to do it. Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, figured out how to manipulate that moron back in February of 2025 when he first threatened tariffs on them. She's managed his ass and manipulated him expertly. Maybe Starmer is finally figuring out in Great Britain, maybe. The coward, the goofball at FIFA who, the FIFA chief who gave the idiot the FIFA Peace Prize. I don't know if he's figured it out yet. Maybe not. The president or whatever it is of NATO, I don't know if he's kind of gotten it yet, because he keeps kissing the idiot's ass. But I don't expect Netanyahu to act any differently. Because everybody's manipulating the village idiots. So why wouldn't the Israelis? And the idiot is backed so deeply into a corner now that, the Strait of Hormuz is closed. Again, today. The Iranians were like, look, the Israelis have broken the ceasefire over and over again. As far as we're concerned, the Americans have broken the ceasefire. We can't take this. We didn't trust Donald Trump anyway. Why would anyone trust him? So aside from not trusting him, you already have at least they're saying that there were 10 indications of the ceasefire being broken. They are ready to go back, and they keep threatening to hit the Israelis again. There have been multiple exchanges between the Israelis and then also the Iranians. And again, I don't even know what's happened in the last hour because I've been out and about running around. But the Iranians hitting their neighbors. So what's going to happen here? This is my best guess. And then I'm going to look at, then I'm going to read some of your comments. But this is my best guess, guys. And I think Trump is so deranged that I think any guess is just a guess because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And my best guess is that I don't think he is completely gone mentally. I think the fact that he accepted the ceasefire and didn't blow up the civilization was indicative of the fact there's still enough awareness in his deranged mind. There's still enough conscious awareness at this point of his political peril that he's in right now, and that still matters to him. And he still hates that, most of America, he still has an understanding. He hasn't completely deluded himself. He still knows that most of America hates him, and most of the world hates him right now. And he can't stand that. His mental illness, his malignant narcissism, I think makes that impossible for him to live with. So I think that's why he so quickly accepted the 10-point plan from the Iranians. I think he hits a point where emotionally and mentally he can't take it anymore. He can't process it anymore. And he just shuts down. And he's just like, it's over. We're not going to go back in. We did it. We won. We destroyed everything. It's the Israelis' problem now. It's the European, it's the EU. They're such cowards. They're such cowards. I wanted them to come in. I asked them. They wouldn't be here, NATO. We're always there for them. We're not. He's already set that up. And I'm thinking, I'm hoping that Netanyahu loses this strategic battle. And then Netanyahu isn't able to bait the idiot back in because the idiot's personal needs will always outweigh whatever he thinks he's going to get from someone else. And I think his personal needs right now are to get out of this. I think he's reaching maximum tolerance, and I think he knows he's beaten. He knows the Iranians. The only way that he can possibly win in Iran is to send ground troops in, engage in a full-on war. I think he still has an idea that could be the end of his presidency. And I think he's just going to bail. I think we're just going to hear in a couple of days, we did fantastic. We won the war. We did regime change. We did all the hard work. Now the Israelis need to finish it off. We're going to support them. We're going to give them whatever they need. They got to finish it off. The Europeans have to clean up. We don't need any oil from Hormuz. The Europeans they can get all the oil. Then let them open the strait. And it'll start covering up. We'll start hearing more and more talk about pulling us out of NATO. That will become the news cycle. He'll threaten to pull us out of NATO. We'll have that whole discussion on whether or not he can actually do that. And then if it doesn't work well enough, he'll order a blockade on Cuba or something, right? There'll be something else to distract from this. That's what I think we're going to see in the next couple of days. That's my hope. On the flip side, the Israelis don't stop. They continue to provoke the Iranians. The Iranians start fighting again. The village idiot goes full in, whatever that means. And then if you guys, those of you that joined, I want to make sure I have time to get to the comments. Those of you who saw my interview about 2 weeks ago with Ken Harbaugh, who is and I'm going to have Ken on again soon, who is really a drone expert and a former Navy pilot, military expert himself, understands the drone situation. He spent time in Ukraine and Kherson, Did a documentary about the drone hunters, Ukrainian drone hunters in Kherson. And he's also really up to date on what's going on in this war and the drones and the missiles being used. He had made the point, toward the end of our discussion that day, that that we are reaching a worst case scenario situation with Trump. And that worst case scenario situation, what the hell does that look like? Could that be a nuke? Could that be dropping a nuclear bomb on Iran? I mean, it seems insane, but he's certainly crazy enough to do it. And, we had a little taste of that a couple days ago or yesterday, it's been one long day since January 20th, 2025. But when he made that insane statement about, just basically killing every Iranian, getting rid of the civilization, was, the White House is saying that a nuclear bomb wasn't what was going through his mind. Now, as Gamer Vet Dad explained to us, that it can't just Gamer. You explained this, right? It can't just be him. Was it you, Gamer, or I might have actually? That may have been a discussion. Every time I get facts like these, I attribute them to Gamer Vet Dad, but I don't remember if it was you, Gamer, because I know we had a discussion at Chorus as well, a deep discussion about this, and I know somebody else was researching it as well, that there had to be sign off by certain generals, or I don't remember exactly, if the president alone can call in a nuclear strike. But you know what? If we go back in, then then all bets are off, guys. So I'm hoping my prediction that he's bored and he moves on is the prediction. Anyway, let's get to enough of my babble. Let's get to some comments in the chat here. I'm gonna just bring the because as usual, I forgot to bring my glasses in from the car, so I'm just going to bring the chat over here. So I apologize when I read the chat for looking away from the camera. It's just I can't read it over there. Let me just scroll back a little bit. Gamer Vet Dad, my birthday. Oh, it's your birthday today, Gamer Vet? Oh, happy birthday, everybody. Let's do a round of applause for Gamer. Gamer, let me see. Let me pull up I closed up my, where the heck are they? I closed up my sound effects and I can't find them. But I think I have a happy birthday song on those. But it does create a problem because I can't find them. Oh, well. Happy birthday, Gamer. I'm going to find my sound effects again. And they're in here somewhere, but I don't want to waste everybody's time while I'm looking for them. But happy birthday, my friend. So Lacey is saying, and it seems impossible to get him out. She's talking about getting Trump out. He has been Gamer Vet Dad. He has been played by them. They give him something, he embellishes it. Then Iran comes back and says they are getting X, and then he backpedals because he was lying. And that's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. He is not the Iranians. Oh, I just heard some weird sound coming out of my computer. The Iranians have a point. That's weird. I'm getting some feed. I'm getting sounds coming through my speaker here, and it's saying, I can't figure out what's going on. My speaker is saying to who? Anyway, is somebody putting to who in the chat? I wonder if I'm getting some weird, let me just check the other chat too. No, nothing coming through Instagram. Just want to see. No, nobody's saying to who here. I'm just checking the live chats, guys, because I'm getting this weird feedback. And I don't quite know what it is. Irrespective, Lacey, your frustration is palpable. How do we get rid of them before catastrophe happens? And catastrophe has happened. I did a post yesterday, I think it was, where it's not just us. It's Republicans. It's former MAGA Republicans. Candace Owens. What the fuck is going on? He's out of his goddamn mind, right? In essence. Piers Morgan. Get rid of him. He's crazy. 25th Amendment. Marjorie Taylor Greene. The president is insane. I'm paraphrasing it. I don't have their tweets in front of me, but just the president is insane. Get rid of the president. Alex Jones. When Alex Jones is calling someone crazy, and when Alex Jones doesn't sound like a crazy person because he's called, when you have reached a red line, I don't mean Alex Jones saying the liberals are such crazy, they're crazy liberals and we got to get rid of them all. I don't mean that Alex Jones calling. I mean when Alex Jones is relatively calm and he says, oh, you know what's talking to me? It's Siri. My phone. Siri was listening to us. That was disturbing. When Alex Jones is calmly saying, and he's rationally thinking, and he's like saying, how do we 25th Amendment his ass? You know, we're in deep shit, right? Right? When Senate and House Republicans are still too cowardly to do anything, and Alex Jones doesn't give them the strength and the courage, who else do they need? Megyn Kelly, right? Megyn Kelly, whose son is of draft age, is like, what the, I'm trying to use the F word a little less these days. I don't know. Just people have been, as I'm growing a little bit, family members have been calling me out on it. So I don't know. I'm trying to use it a little less. I don't know. Because I don't walk around with family members and friends saying F, 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 F. I want to, because it's how I just like to talk that way. And I want to make sure I'm authentic on social media, but I don't. I contain myself. But here, where I've access to the most people ever, I'm happy to say it, and I like to. But I'm trying to taper it because I don't want to sound trashy. Okay, so say it 5 times less per live. See if that makes a difference. But my point is, again, when we go to the absurdity of this moment, right? Trump has lost some of the most extreme MAGA Republicans out there, right? What the hell is going on with, what are they afraid of? How is it that John Thune is afraid of this? I mean, look at this right here, guys. Republicans, I mean, just look at the reporting. I know you can't see it completely. I'll read. Republicans block effort to halt Trump's war with Iran after the civilization threat, right? I'm sure they're talking about Republican Senate. House Democrats unsuccessfully attempted to pass a resolution to halt Donald Trump's war with Iran on Thursday, right? Chicken shit GOP members of the House. The ones who are pretend crazy. Not Andy Ogles and Randy Fine and the fucking lunatics, right? The racist lunatics, not them. But the once normal ones. Tom Emmer, Steve Scalise, supposedly Mike Johnson, the ones who are not, who you couldn't diagnose with a mental illness, right? They're all mental patients. It's not, we don't have the best in the House. They're all mental patients. They're sending the mental patients. And, Donald's probably right about that, even though that's not what he's talking about. But the ones who are not, significantly mentally unstable, right? Like, why are they not hearing the largest Republican influencers out there, many of them being like, it's over. It's done. You're okay. You can stand up, Steve. You can find your courage. Steve Scalise is a courageous man. He really is. I mean, for him to defile himself like this, for those of you who may not have been in politics like 15 years ago or 12 years ago or whatever it was, Scalise was shot. There was a sociopath, and he was a radical left-wing sociopath. We do have some of them, just not as many as the right in real life. But we had one of them who opened fire on at the congressional softball game or baseball game or wherever, and he shot Steve Scalise. Scalise was severely injured. We didn't know if he was going to make it. Nancy Pelosi was Speaker at the House at the time, and she, you could see her visibly worried about Scalise, as well as all her Democrats and Republicans, right? And Scalise, you know, through his sheer will and determination and strength, he came through it. He not only came through it, he lived, he healed. I'm sure he has some permanent damage, but he walks without a cane. He came back, and good for him. I had so much respect for him, and I still do. I don't know if I could have been as strong as him under that kind of circumstance. That says something about his character. But then to have that integrity and to sell yourself out to a fucking moron for politics, for power, Scalise. And now you have this opportunity after all that to stand up and say no more, right? You have an opportunity, Steve. Say no more. And you can't even make the argument that the MAGA, that you're worried for your personal safety or you're worried for your family's safety. That's bullshit anymore. The MAGA mob isn't coming after people who are pushing back against Donald Trump for this war. They're not coming after Candace Owens. They're not trying to go after Tucker Carlson and take him out because he's criticizing this bullshit. The MAGA extremists, you're going to tell me, Steve, are going to go after, the craziest of the crazies? Alex Jones? They're not. But yet you, coward, it's weird that someone I have such respect for, I also, if I stood to his face, would call him a coward. I don't know how you do that, but I would tell him, Congressman, I have incredible respect for you, and you're also a coward. It's a weird juxtaposition, right? It's a weird imbalance going on. But they have every opportunity right now to stand up. But they're afraid. And at this point, they're just afraid of a nasty tweet from an idiot. They're so beaten down, they're so pathetic that a nasty tweet from an idiot is what they're scared of now. And they're allowing this to happen. And it is my wish, it is my prayer, not just to be spiteful, but because America needs to do it. That these safe Republicans in the House and Democrats in the House are up for re-election every 2 years. And yeah, there are safe Republican seats that have been safe forever. But it is my hope against hope that the blue wave is so significant, that is so remarkable, that the pushback against Donald Trump is so great that Steve Scalise and Mike Johnson and these fools, these cowards, who now have no excuse to not stand up against this idiot, that they get removed from office, that they get beaten by Democrats. And I know the DNC is not going to push and try to win those seats, and it bugs the shit out of me because they're all winnable. I do, and one other thing I'll say before I wrap the live, guys, is in terms of being hopeful, in a moment when there's a sense of hopelessness because, again, genocide and catastrophe is happening in real time, and it could continue and it could get worse. But electorally hopeful, I keep saying this and I'm going to continue to say it. There is absolutely no reason that every single seat in Congress, in the Senate and in the House, that's up for every seat in every district is winnable by Democrats now. You even saw that. Look at that race in Georgia, that special election in Georgia. The Republican, I have no idea what his name is. I could really fucking care less, right? He won by about 10, 12 points, something like that. Normally you would say, well, that's a pretty significant win. And it is. That's a safe win. Mikey Sherrill won by that many points here in New Jersey. And it was a major win for her. It was a blowout in New Jersey in our governor's race, right? But Donald Trump won that seat won that county by 35 points, right? This guy won by 12. That's over a 20 point. It was the largest swing we've seen yet. Almost a 25 point swing. It was one of the largest swings we've seen since Donald Trump has been since he was inaugurated the second time around. And you can make the argument a win is a win is a win. Yeah, but not really, because not every seat like that has been a win. There have been more upsets in local and state and federal government that I'd have to research them and give you the numbers exactly, but there have been more upsets in deep red districts where Democrats have actually won in the last year and a half. There's no reason that every House seat is not up for grabs. There is no reason that every Senate seat where there's an election is not up for grabs. Every seat is up for grabs. Every seat. Because it doesn't even matter what the data suggests, what the polling suggests. Because we have seen the polling. Mikey Sherrill was polling 3 points ahead, anywhere from a neck and neck tie to 3 points ahead of Jack Ciattarelli before the election. And she blew him the fuck out. And you're seeing that everywhere. So I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen when the midterms come. I mean, I know that Democrats are going to win the House and the Senate. I know that. But I don't think anybody knows how dramatic that win is going to be. And I just think I think that's not delusional thinking. I don't know why Democrats are too afraid to take that position. I just think it's reality. Election outcomes are, especially recent election outcomes, are a far better indicator of a concurrent, a subsequent election outcome than polling would be. And we've seen this pattern since January 20th, 2025, where Democrats overperform exponentially. And in many cases, they don't just overperform, they win in red districts. There's no reason to think that can't happen in the midterms. So that keeps me going. I'm super, super optimistic about what the midterm elections are going to look like the day after Election Day. But that's just me. All right, my friends. Let me just see if there's any additional comments that we may have missed. I'm sure there are. Let me just kind of go to the Tina. Did you see that ICE is taking military family members when they graduate at the grad? Yes. When is that, by the way? That graduation? I can't remember. Or did that happen already? I mean, I kind of lost track of it already because, I was following it until the war stuff kicked in, and then I stopped paying attention to the story. But yes, let's make the midterms too big to rig. Agree, Lacey. So they keep their seat to avoid jail time. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that there are that many Republican members of the House that. Trump has committed crimes, and I guess you can make arguments for insider trading, but members of Congress have been allowed to do that for ages. So I don't know that there's. I don't know that there's. I can't think offhand of a particular member of Congress who has broken the law specifically. I mean, they've been unethical and ridiculous, but I don't know that they've broken the law. Gail, they're enriching themselves. Gail, that's another thing. That one I can certainly get. You can sell me on that, every minute of every hour of every day. That might be what's keeping them there. They're getting rich just like the idiot is getting richer. Gamer Vet Dad. So I think Gamer Vet Dad, you're there with Tina because they are afraid of the legal fallout for past things they say. So they need to keep their seat to avoid jail time. All right, you've sold me. I mean, Tina, you just gave me the one line, jail time, and it didn't. So I didn't get sold on that. But Gamer Vet Dad added the color, and now, all right, I get it. All right, I'm in with you. So they're enriching themselves. They're avoiding jail time potentially, or even investigations. Probably avoiding ethics investigations into themselves. Although they won't be able to avoid those once the Democrats take control of the House. So, there's that. Uh, there's that. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap the live now. Thank you so much, guys, for the group therapy. I'll be here tomorrow. I should be on time. I hope. I don't see any problems that I'm aware of. It was just a weird day today. Let me just double check the calendar before we wrap. And you guys can kind of see it in the background, but yeah, tomorrow looks good. So I should have no excuse not being on time for our 11:15 live. I love you guys. 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one live at a time. That's how we tackle this. That's how we get through this. We're heading toward the 2-year mark, my friends. Oh, and I forgot to say, if you're joining us from any of the socials, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, please consider coming over to Xenocracy.news. That's my Substack. That's our home base. Please consider coming over and subscribing. We have a lot more stuff over there. I have exclusive interviews that we do over there. You'll never miss a live over there. Every live is, if you miss a live in real time, they're all posted over there. We have articles. GamerVet Dad has one in the pipeline right now. It's actually been ready. I apologize, Gamer, that I didn't get to it, but I am gonna get to it tonight. And I keep promising more articles that I'll be writing some myself, but they're coming. I just haven't had a chance to do it. So please, please, please consider coming over to Xenocracy. If you're a member at Xenocracy, please consider becoming a paid subscriber. If that's something that you're comfortable with and that you're inspired to do, it's what allows me to continue to do my work. And we're just going to keep having at it, and we're going to get through this. I love you guys. 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one live at a time. Instagram, we're going to wrap you guys first, and then we will wrap the larger lives. So Instagram has left the building, and the dog, as you can see, the dog knows, right? She knows when it's time to go out. I love you guys. I'll see you soon. Be well, everybody.